another segment of Practical Magic where we explore the work behind the people who practice magic, who do healing and tap into their intuition and the non-ordinary world. Today we have two healers who work together, Deanna and Jenni Prince. Deanna graduated from the Academy of Oriental Medicine.
Yes.
This is Deanna. And she's an acupuncturist. That's how she practices her healing modality. And then we have Jenni Prince, who has been a gifted spiritual advisor, intuitive, and teacher for 29 years.
Yes. Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you.
So let's start off. How would you all describe your work? I had the luxury of experiencing it, and it's quite extraordinary. One of you, Deanna, is doing acupuncture while you're clearing energy, or what do you all do? How do you describe your job?
Great question. Both Deanna and I are healers. How we practice being healers would be through the energetic medicine and through acupuncture, but being healers, we are picking up on various energy fields within somebody. So we're basically in surrogation. So Tania, when you came in, what we were doing is we were feeling into you, in ourselves as you. So any sort of energy shifts that needed to be made, meridian blocks, things like that, we'll feel that inside of ourselves. So it makes it very easy for us to shift that energy because we can vary the frequency, kind of like a radio station.
Mm-hmm.
If you have your favorite radio station that you want to be tuned into, but you keep trying to get to it and there's too much static, what we can do is fine tune that in so that way you have a clear channel.
Okay, and you both can see this, or you both can feel it in both of your bodies.
Yes,
Yeah.
we're different though. I mean,
Right.
we're wired differently. So,
Right.
with every patient that comes in, I meditate with them first,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm guided, told what channels and kind of what energies that we're working on and
Mhm.
directions on that. So, and we don't talk to each other because we need that checks and balance. So when we're in the front of the patient,
Mhm.
that's it. We're talking for the first time between both of us as well.
Right.
So it's not like we have a collaborative effort
Mm-hmm.
as far as, hey, this is what we're going to work on today. I'll come in with what my read is, and Deanna will have her read, and then based on a conversation that we'll have with you or another, any of our patients, will be how we go from there based on not only symptoms, because again, we're not really there to treat symptoms.
Right.
We're looking more towards the root of what's going on and where that imbalance is, and that can be carried in the physical body,
Mm-hmm.
as well as their subtle bodies. You have the emotional, mental, spiritual, and the energetic bodies as well, and you can
Mhm.
carry resin in each of those fields, and we'll clear it all out.
Are you? You call yourself an intuitive, Jenni. Are you able to pick? Are you also experiencing like psychic visions?
Great question.
That might be redundant.
No,
Psychic and
that's
vision.
it. No, it's a good question. Vision is an interesting word
Right.
because again, a lot of times we picture vision with our eyes,
Mhm.
correct? If anything that you can see with your eyes is about 1% of what's truly going on. It's very important to be available, be present without having preconceived notions or having definitions of, well, this is what I think this person is saying, or this is what they're doing based on how they come in, or what their facial expressions are, and so forth.
Right.
What you're doing is I'm usually having about 4 different conversations at once, and most psychologists would have a problem with that. But I'm reading not only what's coming off of you, I'm also reading what I'm feeling into and any messages that need to be given to you. I would say that I have a major in knowing and a minor in seeing.
Okay.
You actually have to thicken your frequency in order to see something. It's much easier. You can keep your frequencies lower, which is a good thing. You want to keep your frequency, we usually try to run at about 6.5 hertz. 7.83 hertz would be the heartbeat of the earth, or the Schumann resonance. And that's where your spirit can actually enter into your body, so you're not just going through the motions of life. You want to be able to read those fields clearly.
Okay. And you also can perceive.
Yes, but I feel things. I feel in my body. I can feel when energy shifts, when it moves.
Right.
It has different sensations. One thing about the acupuncture is that together we extrapolate it, and we see the body as more of a cosmic being than a person on the table.
Right.
So we understand that we're wired, we're templated into this universe, into our solar system. And if we understand from when the bodies are in the acupuncture lines in the body, we can call them meridians or channels, but they exist outside the body. So they didn't just start at your carbon body.
Right.
And they can go, when they're healthy and in this in a pure state of transmission, they can go all the way out to the Orion Beltway.
What?
That's a template.
You mean
We are wired into this universe. We are wired into this.
So if I'm operating on all cylinders, feeling good, doing the work I should or need to be doing, my meridians, right, the avenues of energy in my body that acupuncture taps into, will be up in space.
Correct.
And
that's known as axitonal lines. So the similar to the way you have like asteroids, meteors, and basically they're the same thing, but one's outside of the atmosphere and one's inside.
Right.
It's the same kind of thing. You have axitonal lines that are outside of the body, and when they hit the kidney one, which brings
Most
the
of the
energy
kidney channel
into
we're
it,
working with.
then it turns into the meridians, and that's the actual electricity in the body. Similar to the way that your veins carry your blood, the meridians carry the electricity of the body.
Why are you mostly working with kidneys? What's the significance of kidney?
It's the main. If we go back to traditional Chinese medicine, it's the congenital qi. It's the qi that you're born with. It's the energy that formed you, at birth. But we also know it as energy workers, not necessarily in acupuncture school, because I didn't learn axitonal lines in acupuncture school. I learned that in practice. So that's the main source of energy coming into the body. The body is an electrical unit. Of course, we're electrons, protons, and neutrons, right?
Right.
And there's frequencies and there's spinnings and all that kind of thing. And health is dependent upon how these frequencies are working. And the body in itself is a big battery. So so a battery has a ground, right?
Yeah.
So this is the ground. And this would be the positive charge. There's a door here. That's the top positive charge. And there's a negative charge here. But what feeds it comes in through the bottom of that foot on that kidney channel. So that's important circuit. And then when that picks up, it works with all the other meridians in the body to help them flow and keep them moving.
So it's the things that happen in our lives that make it so that breakdown happens. So that like you can actually use up all of your strength or not be open or accepting to what's going on in your environment or a health ailment. Stress on the job, stress in life, those are really big factors that will actually shut down your circuitry and make it so you're not available to yourself.
Well, do they shut it down or do we shut it down?
Absolutely. You would do it. It's there is free will.
Right.
And obviously you have the ability to decide how much drama you bring into your life.
How do you know you're right when you're working?
Oh, that's a great question.
It's not a right, it's a feeling it's like music without sound. It's hard, it's a hum. And when it's on, it's like,
boom.
It's like there, but there's no sound like music, but yet it feels like sound. So it's hard to describe that, but it's a feeling within our body, within the whole field. We can feel it because we work within a very protected space where we can allow angels, we can allow other people's past relatives through that want to communicate. We have a very sacred space that allows work to go through. And so the field, we can feel it very strongly. So it's just,
You know it's that hum.
When you get there, it's a hum. You know you got it.
Tanya, remember how we were talking about when we first started talking today about the radio station and the static and so forth? When that static clears up, there's no doubt about it. Again, we're not looking for hope. We're not looking for belief. We're not looking for faith. Those are things outside of us. We have a certainty inside of us. You can actually feel those tones. You can feel that harmony that is brought about.
So for you, rightness, for you both, rightness, and maybe for all of us then, rightness is a vibration, a tone, almost, you talk about it in the way of like music, audio.
There's different ways people can feel it.
But for you all, you experience it as this kind of like a tuning fork?
Kind of. I'm using that terminology
Right.
because it's something that the audience and
Mhm.
you can relate
Yeah.
to. It's bigger than that, but
Mhm.
that's the most simple way that I can explain it within
Right.
human terms.
Okay. Does evil exist? I've
We
asked,
see it.
you do. I've
We
asked
see
all
it.
of my guests this.
We see it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
How
What
does
is
it exist?
Well, we don't. So first off, we don't believe in good and bad. All right. Again, everything is a lesson to be learned. It's a sacred contract to be presented with. There's karmatic contracts as well, and so by living a human life, the spirit has the opportunity to grow and achieve those higher levels of spiritual attainment. With it, that being said, we are in a thick 3D space here on Earth,
Mm-hmm.
of which we share the field with, and so whether you call it parasitic energy, demonic energy, and so forth, it is available. It's a matter of are you compromised to be able to receive that space, and that usually happens through alcohol, drug abuse, that can happen through stress, that can happen through concussions, going under for surgeries. There's various types of meditations. A lot of times you have to be triple triggered in order for that to happen. Where
Like
you're,
to be invaded by a
Right.
demonic force
Right.
or something.
right, and that can include truncating that kidney line so that way you don't have access to those oxytonal
Right.
energy. So that's when you start becoming very fatigued. A lot of times you'll get brain fog and so forth when that happens. You can have actual energetic parasites
Right.
that invade your body. There's lots of different ways that can show up.
What does that look like to you all if someone, when people come in, because you mentioned that you do a lot of exorcism or depossessions. What does that feel like? How do you perceive that?
I don't first of all, you're gonna you think of the TV show.
Yeah.
And all the
Right,
heads
right, you think of
turning
the
and the
sci-fi.
eyes popping out or
Mhm.
whatever they do on TV. We've only seen that once. Sorry, I shouldn't have said that. Only once on
Every
that.
now and
But
again.
normally,
Where
we don't
was
see-
that? I'll never go near there.
Well, again, we actually get brought in on several projects whether it be clearing schools after shootings or going into people's homes after traumatic events that have happened and so forth. And of course, there's a resonant energy there, as well as it shows up in our office.
Okay,
Yeah.
so when it shows up in your office, just your garden variety exorcism, not the eyes popping out. What's your experience with that as a healer?
It's we are supported within that field. We are able to access, we work interdimensionally as well. So again, that's another aspect, and we are supported in that work. So
what do you mean by interdimensions? Two questions. What dimension are we in right now? Is it the 3D you said?
Yeah.
Okay.
yes.
So,
But specifically, the third dimensional worldly.
okay.
Because there's various quadrants. There's 4 quadrants, and you have 11 dimensions per quadrant.
Okay. Okay. We're just gonna have an episode on quadrants. Stay tuned, it'll be great. Okay, so when someone comes in and they've been possessed, what's the order of operation? Is there a typical order?
It depends. Okay, if they're in a very high frequency and they're reactive, so if we just touch them and they're reactive, then the first thing is just to calm them down, get them stable, so
Right.
that whatever work you do, they're not reacting to it. They're actually on board with their healing, because it's about them and their healing. So that's the first thing. Just connect,
Right.
get them to feel comfortable. We spend time talking to each patient before we see them. We get that going, whether they've got this energy in them or
Right,
not. It doesn't really
right.
matter. But frequencies are important to us. So we have to make a stable field, and then we have a lot of work in our head where we're accessing this other dimensions and guides from certain angels and help and
Where are you
opening portals
throwing?
and gateways.
Right.
So we open portals, and we can pull that energy off and seal it up, and it goes into spiritual prison.
Really?
Yeah.
What's that? It's like
You described that one.
are those spirits or just energies?
No, okay, so let's work on terminology.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Let's get our vocab right.
we're going to
Yeah.
all work on our vocabulary right now. So you have ghosts, you have spirits, you have gateways, you have portals. What does all of this mean, right? And so when we're talking about the full spirit is outside of time and space. The full spirit can have several lifetimes,
Mhm.
all right? And the full spirit, your full spirit, Tanya, gifts this one human experience, which to your full spirit is like 1 day of second grade, okay?
Uh-huh.
It gives this 1 day of second grade a seed, and we call that seed the soul. Now, the soul is what is animating you,
Right.
okay? That's what allows you to have this human experience.
Mhm.
Now, of course, the goal is that we are constantly in contact with our full spirit and getting all of the cheat codes, right?
Yeah.
On how to do life and how to create those sacred contracts and fulfill our karmic destinies and be here with
Mhm.
our soul families, right? So that's the terminology there. So when we talk about a soul, when we talk about a
Mhm.
spirit, let's be clear about that, okay? Now, what happens at the time of death,
Mhm.
okay, transition, pick your word, is that soul leaves the carbon body, and its job is to reunite with the full spirit, saying, hey, guess what I've done today,
Right.
okay? And what happens sometimes is if that frequency is too high, it will get caught, go back to dimensions, into a worldly fifth dimensional space, otherwise known as union station, okay? So a lot of times when mediums read spirits, they're
Mhm.
working in an eighth dimensional spiritual space. Remember the quadrants. You have your inner being, you have your worldly, you have
Mhm.
relationships, and you have the spiritual realm. And so when mediums are talking with spirits, they're not working in that union station space or
Right.
that fifth dimensional worldly where they're transitioning out. And so again, and so just to help with
Right.
that.
So so mediums are working from a higher place, a purer place.
Some
Mhm.
come. Some.
Right.
Everyone's different.
Yeah.
Again, they can access different
Mhm.
dimensions. That's what makes us all so different.
Right.
And even a
Exciting.
medium or
Yeah, and the
a
medium
psychic
or
or
psych-
whatever,
right.
they could be. We don't. They may be tapping different ways.
Yeah, each
Sure.
person's work is her own.
Exactly.
So I'm guessing you do believe in ghosts and and spirits and other entities.
So a soul,
Right.
a soul after it's
Mhm.
transitioned out of the human body would be
Mhm.
considered a ghost until it's reunited into its full spirit.
Say, for instance, someone who commits suicide or has an untimely death or a violent death or has done bad stuff, a
Yes.
bad dude,
Exactly.
as I like to call them. That person could potentially have a soul. Their spirit could be stuck,
Mhm.
and that spirit is what could attach itself to a patient of yours, and that's what you're detaching.
Good question.
Okay.
Good question. A lot of times what will happen is if you have we'll call it a lost soul
Right.
specifically, okay? It doesn't mean that that person's spirit is necessarily hurt, but that part of their soul is
Mm-hmm.
is disconnected. And so that can cause hauntings and so forth. And again, if you're dealing with a demonic entity associated with it, again, demons are only here on the third dimensional plane. This is their house. We're the visitors.
Really?
Yeah.
So, okay. Why are we here?
Wait a minute!
Okay.
It's fun.
Yeah. Then we're trespassing.
Kind of. Well,
Why?
pay attention
Yeah,
to this,
okay.
okay? So, if we can bear
Right.
with me while I go spiritual religious for a minute, okay? Again, we're talking about fallen angels, and there's 2 billion fallen angels that couldn't carry the light codes, and so we
Or the
needed a place for
frequencies.
them. They couldn't carry a high enough frequency. They didn't have enough light codes active within their spiritual DNA. You need a place for them, right? And so you use Earth, which is a thicker dimension that
Mhm.
has a demonic field on it because it's thick enough to support them. Okay? You
Right.
can read a lot of different scripture of a lot of different modalities, and it'll talk to you about it in
Mhm.
various terms. With that, again, that energy is here, and it's and so depending on how available you are to
Mhm.
to protect yourself, it can actually have an effect on you.
When you all walk into a party or something like this, are you vibing on energy or or
It's a great question. Have you ever been to Mile High Stadium? Okay.
no?
Okay. Or a concert?
Yes, I have been to a concert.
Okay, all right. So there's like a lot of people around.
Right.
Okay, so you're hearing this all of the time. It's like a
Mhm.
and the whole deal is that you tune in to that one. I'm tuning into Tanya,
Right.
even though there's like a lot of other people out
Yeah.
there, right? And so again, it's just what are you tuning into?
You don't necessarily walk around saying all of her energy, his energy, it would be too much.
Absolutely, I do.
You do?
It doesn't. It's not something you should.
No. Okay. Are
You're reading the field all the time.
What are your dreams like when you all have a dream?
That one's
Okay,
yours, Deanna.
okay, dreams.
Yes.
All right, sleep's important.
Yeah.
And again, we need to, it's all related to frequencies.
Mhm.
So when we go to bed, we make sure our frequencies are at that heartbeat, the Schumann
Mhm.
resonance that we talked about, or lower. It's very important. And we call it checking in. So when we check in,
Mhm.
we're actually available for our spirit to be so big, it's doing a lot of cosmic work. So at night, probably a lot of people in this audience also, everyone has the ability to
Mhm.
do what we call night work.
Well, how do you do that? What's your
And you know,
what's your
some people
grounding
remember and
ritual?
some people don't. but-
Mhm.
So again, what's your
Mhm.
frequency when you go to bed, and what's your intentions? And so you can set some intentions.
And
But-
then does that I mean your work is dealing with realms that none of us have, I'm gonna guess, ever heard of. So your dreams might be more interesting than say
First off, we've got to talk terminology.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you have dreams and you have visions.
Right.
Okay. So imagine this: when you're waking up at about 3 o'clock in the morning,
Mhm.
because a lot of times people have to wake up around 3, between about 2:30 and 3:30, and do something human. Well, that's because they're going back into work. They've been in their full spirit,
Right.
And they're checking back into that human condition for the day, kind of
so
a
it's
deal.
not the
Mhm.
bladder.
No. But you have to do something
Yeah.
human. You need
Yeah.
a drink of water, you need
Okay.
to adjust, open the
Uh-huh.
window, you get the idea. But when you're doing that, when you wake up at that 3 o'clock, write down what you're feeling, write down what you're thinking. Really pay attention, have a recorder or
Mhm.
whatever, because those are your visions. That is your night work.
11 to 3-ish.
Well, that dovetails with my next question. It seems to me, and I've been told that this isn't the case, but it seems to me that the world we live in is heavier and harder than it's ever been. But maybe,
My favorite question.
yeah. Do you have you had any visions about the state of the world, about the health of the planet, about what is your professional opinion about that in your work you do, what you encounter? You told me when I came to see you all that you've never been busier. There are more and more people, and you wish there were more healers out there because it's needed.
Very much so.
So,
Very much so. So, okay, so we live in the United States of America, and we're citizens of this particular nation. And at the time that that this nation was founded,
mhm.
all right, we are affected as citizens of the federal government. So whatever is happening at a federal level,
Mhm.
we will feel intrinsically within the energy field as citizens of that nation. That's the way it's set up. Welcome to oaths and vows. You see it in marriages. Same
Right.
deal, okay?
Yeah.
When one is weak, the both are weak, correct?
Mhm.
Okay, same deal. When the federal government is weak, the citizens are weak. Same thing. And so that energy, the frequency, that 7.83 is now at about a 9.5.
And
Okay?
higher frequency is not good.
It separates us
It's
from
not
our
healthy.
spirit.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
Right.
So continue.
Exactly. And so again, the more we are disconnected from our spirit,
Mhm.
okay, the more we are in a collective culture versus unity consciousness. Okay? So again, we react to the
Mhm.
nightly news. Okay? Right here today, we are working in unity consciousness to learn and grow in knowledge.
Yeah.
There's a different energy there. We are curious and learning versus reacting to a story. Make sense?
Yeah.
And so it's the same way. It's the same type of a situation as far as the energy goes. And so when we get messages like that, absolutely we share them. And of course we follow astrology quite a bit. Like for example, Venus is in retrograde right now. That pulls a lot on relationships, starting with the relationship you have with yourself. It's very important that you're checking in versus sitting there nitpicking and judging.
Yeah, a lot of us feel a lot uglier right now.
And I think people are people are just checking out. People are numbing themselves, and they're becoming, what's that, passive performers.
Right.
They go through their life as passive performers. And why? Because drinking is very attractive. Marijuana is attractive. Prescription drugs are super attractive. Sleeping pills are attractive. It keeps us numb.
Right.
It keeps our frequencies high. It keeps us from feeling. That's it. There's a reason why we do it. So
Yeah,
we don't
wanna
feel as much. And it keeps us more as numb.
Well, I'm going to close off. That was my last question. Thank you so much, Deanna and Jenni. I'm going to open it up to a couple of questions from our audience, and then maybe you all can stay a bit and talk to the people who didn't get to ask questions.
Sure. Okay.
With my permission. Ha! Does anyone have a question?
I have one. I've heard that, you're talking about frequency, and I've heard that being in a bar is not kind of good to yourself in the sense of frequency, because you said about money and substance, and that's why dating in a bar always kind of go wrong.
For sure.
Because people, and then you're not your true self.
That's right.
And that's the...
So the question is at a bar, is that a good place to have healthy frequencies? And again, if you're around a lot of people that their whole goal is to numb themselves out at those higher frequencies, again, we're dealing with a depressant, correct? And so at that point, how invested are they in their spirit that you're going to see a true person, a true being, okay, that you might want to interact with further? And so, obviously you get what you put into it. And so making sure that you're deliberate in your consciousness and how you set up those meetings would be better for your dating.
Again, people are performing. They're trying to perform. A lot of times when your frequencies are higher, you perform. When the frequencies go down, it's like life makes this shift, and all of a sudden you start to experience life. So an experience is so much different than a performance.
That's a great way to put that. That's a beautiful way to put it.
Created versus creating.
What do you? I have a question before that. It's when you watch TV or anything, or do you ever sense that the performer or the politician or the actor is possessed?
Absolutely. That's why we don't watch TV.
You can tell.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, I'll ask you privately.
The answer is yes.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Anyone else?
Well, I would think those dating apps are that much worse than a bar.
A
Dealing
dating
with a lot of times people that are desperate and
lonely, spiritually hungry and lonely. People are starving. They're spiritually starved.
How can they spiritually replenish? How can we spiritually replenish ourselves? Like, what's a quick fix
What is your intention?
to feel better now?
Okay. But again, the intention doesn't have to be the definition of what somebody else says is healthy. It's a matter of what do I want to do within this one text message, within this 1 hour, within this one meal. When I drink this water, what am I bringing into my system? What is your intention? That's a quick fix.
Right. Okay.
Being deliberate in
It's
your consciousness.
mindful.
Yeah.
Right.
We always
Mindful living.
hear
Yeah.
mindfulness. Well, that's what it is.
It just seems like work, right?
Exactly.
Lori?
How much time do you spend with a patient? Is it like a one-session deal? Do you have people come over and over and over again?
Each session's about an hour, and most of our patients come regularly, like once a month, once every 6 weeks, once every 2 months. Something because they're coming for health maintenance. It's like life is messy, and people are out there to do work, and you're meeting all kinds of energies and situations. So people come in, we call it an energetic car wash.
With the full detail.
Yeah.
With the full detail, that's great. Come see Deanna and Jenni for karma, the energetic karma of the full detailing. Well, thank you so much. I hope we
Thank
can
you,
have another
Tanya.
conversation soon.
Yep, it's good to see you, Tanya.
Great
Thanks
to
for
see
having
you
us.
both. Oh, my pleasure. What a treat. If you have some time and want to chat with some people, that'd be great.
Good.
Okay,
Thank
thank you.
That was